Melissa Lee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to take a call on the final reading of the Radio New Zealand Amendment Bill. And before I actually get to the substance of the speech, I just want to respond to the comments that was actually made by Ms. Curran. That having been a broadcaster myself, having actually worked for Television New Zealand and actually ran a production company, sometimes having more money doesn't necessarily mean quality. I am a proponent of local content, and I think that has been put on the record, and I support the work that the great many people in this country actually do to create local content, and I celebrate that. But more money doesn't necessarily mean better quality. So this side of the House has been committed to ensuring that New Zealand Public Service deliver more for the country, and this includes the continuing support of our public radio broadcast service, and a service that is reliable and consistent for today's listeners. And the bill we are debating today will make a stronger statement about our plan to support good independent broadcasting. The bill, of course, has the Radio New Zealand Charter as one of its core components. The Charter states that the purpose of Radio New Zealand is to be a public broadcaster that works for all New Zealanders. It also provides a number of provisions that indicate how the broadcaster is able to deliver this admirable goal. And we are now entering a new age of public broadcasting, sir, that many New Zealanders are now going online for listening to podcasts for Radio New Zealand. And Radio New Zealand shows from home to work and at leisure. And often I think a lot of people rely on the app that they have on their mobile phones to listen to Radio New Zealand as well. And I commend the work of the Radio New Zealand for creating a great app for the convenience of their listeners. So more New Zealanders from different walk of life are also tuning in to listen, that they're no longer listening at the end of the old radio transmitter, listening to the programs. You know, they're doing it also time shifted as well. Not only are they, you know, listening, but also watching pictures on radio. I have seen many radio shows where they include pictures. And, you know, in the old days when we were talking about radio, it was radio with sound without pictures. And when we talked about television, it was just pictures with sound, right? But now there's a convergence in the medium, and radio also often have pictures as well. And it's modern technology that is actually providing that, sir. It is also important to remember that most New Zealanders are no longer waiting for announcements. I said, you know, we're time shifting. Busy lifestyle means that we are never actually at one place tuning in at the right time, waiting for that broadcast. So through the last week, Radio New Zealand have a number of programs that let us discover new and exciting stories about our country and the world we live in. I look forward to seeing what new ideas their production team have coming up in the near future. Members should also remember that the role of Radio New Zealand as a lifeline during times of natural disaster. Radio New Zealand was a key service many Cantabrians looked to during the aftermath of the 2010 and 2011 earthquakes. The role of Radio New Zealand as a support entity with obligations to the Ministry of Civil Defence and wider emergency services must also be noted by the House as a key component of the community support role that they provide. So Radio New Zealand as a broadcaster has over 500,000 listeners a week, comprising nearly 20% of the market share of audience. These numbers show how highly regarded the broadcaster is in New Zealand. And I celebrate that. I should also note that the House that the Commerce Committee, of which I chair, recently reviewed Radio New Zealand during our annual review process. And it was great to hear about their current operations and how they seek to tackle future changes in technology and also the listening habits of the audiences as well. And it was also interesting to note how they're looking into the ethnic diversity of New Zealand population, and they were looking into more representation in terms of programming representing the ethnic diversity as well, and the contents in the grown-up for the younger generation as well in the digital age. Indeed, the Commerce Committee has had a long history with the bill, as members opposite have actually mentioned. It began the hearings in 2009, and it is appropriate that now 6 years later, that this House can send a strong message to the nation about our belief in what the Radio New Zealand services should be achieving for the people of our country. And as a Member of Parliament, we have a duty to New Zealand to maintain Radio New Zealand as a key broadcaster for this country. We also have the duty to help the government fulfill its responsibilities towards Radio New Zealand as well, sir. These responsibilities can only be fulfilled through our recognition that the digital era we are in and the impact that will have on the traditional mediums that for a long time Radio New Zealand had operated under. So this bill actually works for changes and looks ahead to the future vision of our nation so that Radio New Zealand can continue to be a good public broadcast service. And in summary, Radio New Zealand is well trusted and will remain so in our country, and I commend the bill to the House.
Oh, well said.